Yet tied.
Greatest marketing that we know of right now. Yes.
All righty, folks, let me call the meeting to order. This is a regularly scheduled, called and convened Greer City Council meeting held this evening here at City Hall. Having called the meeting to order, I'd like to ask Councilman Lee Dumas if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation for council. If you would like to join us, please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we invoke your presence here tonight and thank you for this great day that you've given us. Thank you for this nation, for our state, this city, those that serve the city, and for this council specifically tonight. Lord, give us wisdom, guidance, and direction as we lead. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Council, in public forum this evening, we have one speaker. Public forum is a time that we set aside for people to address council in regards to issues that are on the agenda. And so this evening, we have a single speaker. Typically, if it's more than 3 or 4, I will ask that a time limit be presented, but I will only ask that tonight that the speaker understand that we do have a meeting in front of us, and time will not be limited, but would be given appropriately for the subject this evening. Also, we would ask that if you are, in this case, the speaker, as you come to the podium, that you would give your name and address as a matter of record. Ms. Becky McLaughlin is our speaker this evening, and so the floor is yours.
I am Becky McLaughlin. I live at 208 Lindbergh Court in Hartwood Place. That's the city limits of Greer. I'm not going to read the letter that I sent to all of you because it takes more than 3 minutes, and I'd rather just hit the highlights. I spoke to you, I think, back in September, and mentioned that in 5 years, in a quarter of a mile of my home, 357 homes have been built, but that was a mistake, and I'm a math teacher, I apologize, but I left out Overton, and there are 78 there, so now we have 435 in a quarter of a mile. And if we go down to the intersection at Abner Creek and Westmoreland, then we're going to pass by 100 townhouses at Dillard Creek and 150 apartments at Redwood. Now, not all of them are going to come through that four-way stop, but they surely do bottle up at the bottom of that gully, as we call it. I wanted to mention that there were 3 more subdivisions on tonight's agenda. And, well, actually, there's 4. 3 of them are off of Abner Creek. And so looking at those, they come to about 100 acres, and all of those are designated suburban neighborhoods. We'd love to have a suburban neighborhood. I certainly respect the homeowners, the Merritt's right to sell their property. The problem that we're having is that we're going to put 180 townhouses there. And at the planning meeting, there was some confusion about exactly how many cars per townhouse there were. And if it's 2.5, then you did see my math, I'm sure. We're looking at an awfully lot of property going through a 4-way stop, and there's no plan to change that intersection until the additional traffic triggers that. So that means after they're inhabited and whatever goes on that other corner happens, then we're going to look at maybe 1,000 more cars going through an intersection, and then we got to fix it. So those are my issues, and the issues for us are certainly This is the council that represents us. We pay taxes. We've been paying taxes here for a long time. We would very much like for you to understand our issue. We love Greer. We love living here. We love bringing our families to enjoy the activities that are here, but we need your representation. We're not saying don't put anything there. Something's going to go. But it doesn't need to be 180 townhouses. We would love to have something that reflects the way we live. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, let's take a look at the minutes from the council meeting on October the 22nd, 2024. Those come to you this evening for approval. I'll entertain a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
And a second. Any items of note for the clerk? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, we have a presentation this evening. Maggie Blair is here as Executive Director of the Greer Farmers Market. She comes this evening to give us an overview of the Greer Farmers Market and give us some more information as to how this year went and hopefully maybe what we can expect next year as well, too. So the floor is yours, Ms. Blair.
Hi, yes, I'm Maggie Blair. I'm the director of the Greer Farmers Market, and I have not come to City Council before, so I wanted to give an overview of the market. Many of you have seen our Tuesday markets out here happening over the summer, and I hope that you have enjoyed our markets and come out to see us as well. I will try to make it quick, but I have a lot to talk about, and if you would like to talk about anything else with me, anything that I've covered after the meeting or another time, I'm happy to do that. Our mission is to support our farmers, makers, and bakers by giving them an outlet to sell directly to their consumer, to enrich the community with farm fresh and seasoned produce, and give customers access to locally produced baked goods and products. And those are a few of our guys out this summer. We've been a farmers market since 2015. We are a nonprofit 501c3. We operate independently but in partnership with the city of Greer. And I'm the staff member, so it's me. And then we have a board of directors and a summer intern as well. Over the 10 years of the Greer Farmers Market, they started with 10 vendors on the corner of Trade Street, and now our larger events have over 70 vendors and over 2,000 attendees. So our farmers market has been growing, and we hope that it will continue to grow. Currently, we are a year-round market, and we had 26 farmers market events last year, which is a lot of events. We're out here almost, every week or every month with our vendors. And we really appreciate the opportunity to be here in the city of Greer for supporting us through that time. These are just who we are, our staff. There's me and our board and our intern. And we also have volunteers as well. We had a 2023 impact report last year, and this year we will also have a 2024 impact report that will be posted on our website with a lot more information about the goings-on of our market. But some highlights are that this year we've had over 200 farmers market applications. We've supported 28 farms. We've had 26 partners, including nonprofits and other community businesses that have offered their services for free. We've had 27, if you count our pop-up at the Renaissance Fair Market. We've had 23 sponsors, which is incredible. We've supported 27 musicians, we've had 16 food trucks, and 21 volunteers, which is double the volunteers from last year. So we've had a great year, a growing year as we're growing with Greer. These are just a few more of our farmers. They're local upstate residents. Many of them are part-time or full-time farmers. We also have jewelry and bath products and many other wonderful items that you can buy and use at home. So I hope that you guys come out and see us. My favorite new addition this year was eggs. We had duck eggs and quail eggs and chicken eggs. This year has been a great year, not only in terms of growth, but because we have become we focused on food assistance. So we've become a SNAP retailer. And with that, we've become a Healthy Bucks site where with $5 SNAP purchase, you get $15 that you can use for fruits and vegetables for free, and that's a state program. We've expanded our senior voucher program as well. We were a senior voucher distribution site, which was great, and brought out a lot of people and helped educate them about the senior vouchers. And that's something that we're gonna do again next year and grow that as well. We're also in the early stages of planning for next year a Healthy Kids program where children can get $5 a voucher for fruits and vegetables at the market, and that's for all children. There's no application process or income level needed. You just be a kid and show up. So that's going to be really exciting, and I can't wait to share more about that with everyone later. Marketing, I won't go over that. Just thank you to the City of Greer for including us in marketing with the other events going on in the city. We appreciate that. That makes a big difference. We appreciate all the support from the City of Greer. We recently got a travel tourism grant as well, which is so exciting. And we are using those funds, and we will continue to use those funds. And it's really impacted us. Our sponsors have been so helpful. Vendor fees cover less than half of our expenses. So sponsors have been huge for us this year. With all of our success, we do have some opportunities to improve. We put out surveys for our vendors, and they give us feedback. Our vendors are asking for an easier vendor load-in. They're asking for help with the weather, which I can't do much about. But weather did impact us a lot this year, and it really reduced our turnout when we had heat advisories and thunderstorms and everything else. And another thing is that we need more produce vendors. So if you know of any produce vendors, send them my way. Permanent physical signage is something that I would love to look at in the community somewhere where people can see us. Most of our marketing is online, so that would be helpful. And then security, our vendors would like to see some security at our farmers market. So these are things that I'm thinking about as we look to the future, some opportunities to improve. But overall, we're really excited for our next year. These are our upcoming events. In 2025 will be our 10-year anniversary, and we've got some really exciting things planned for that. And I hope that you guys come out and join us and support us. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. If you'll stay just a moment, I'll open it up for questions or comments from council.
What does it cost to have a space?
Mm-hmm. It's a $20 application for vendors, and then either $15 or $25, depending on what you sell. So our farmers, they pay $15 per market, and our makers pay $25. So our prices are competitive, I think.
Are you maxed out with the number of vendors, or are you?
We try to cap our vendors. We try to limit the number of makers based on the number of farmers. So if we have a lot of farmers, we add more makers. Right now, we're pretty capped out because we have only so many farmers. But if we get more farmers and more foot traffic, we can expand the number of vendors that we have.
You reached out to the Clemson Extension to ask for?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do work with Clemson Extension and many other agencies in our area, and they've been really, really helpful. One thing that we're looking at for next year is moving to Sundays. So I think that that will be really helpful in getting new vendors.
You won't have it on Tuesdays, you'll have it on Sundays?
Right. We did an economic impact report. We found that our market has $1 million impact on our vendors over the course of the year and a $2 million impact on surrounding businesses. So that's another fun fact that I didn't put in our presentation.
Others?
I just want to say thank you for the work you're doing. Congratulations on the growth that you've seen. It's thinking over just the last few years, it's amazing to see what the market has become. You've done a great job of there being something for everyone, literally, at the events. And so kids and music and all kinds of stuff. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And I'm looking forward to working hard and suffering hard and serving our community next week and being a judge at the chili cook-off next week. So thank you for that opportunity.
That's going to be a really fun one, the chili cook-off.
Yeah, I was going to throw in, you're welcome to invite me back for the apple pie contest next year. I enjoyed that thoroughly.
Wonderful. Yes, we'd love to have you back.
Others?
Yeah, I want to echo what Mark is saying about the work you're doing here. On every other Tuesday, I get to see my kids. They come to the market and they'll poke their head up to the glass, and it always make me laugh, usually during the council meetings. But now that y'all move it potentially to Sundays, I'll get to be on the outside and get to hold a hand and walk through the market now, so that'd be good.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate the report and look forward to future events.
Thank you.
Mr. Merriman, your report, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. The city, in conjunction with Walker Consultants, we're performing a parking study, studying the options in and around the historic downtown Greer Station area. In addition to the study, there is a survey that will help provide input for future parking improvements downtown, to help us work through some planning and development strategies. So if anybody that hears this would like to go to the City of Greer's website, there is a link to that survey. So we'd love to hear your feedback on parking downtown as we continue to study this issue. Last week at the Recreation Board meeting, Mayor Danner and our Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Director, Ann Cunningham, both received awards on behalf of the Master Sergeant Preston B. Johnson, Chapter 39, Disabled American Veterans. Mayor Danner received his award from the chapter for his dedication and unwavering support of veterans and their successful partnership for Freedom Blast, while Ann was presented her award for her longtime commitment, devotion, and passion for the veterans in Greer Veterans Park that honors our veterans in the United States. The DAV chapter has over 400 members who serve the area, some of which were present during that meeting. So congratulations both to Ann and Mayor Danner. On the way of recognitions, I want to recognize our urban parks team in our public services department. They were recently nationally recognized. The team brought the Green Star Merit Award from the Professional Grounds Management Society back to Greer after a recent award celebration in Louisville. The award is given for exceptional grounds maintenance and judged based on categories including turf management, landscaping, sustainable practices. So if you see any of our urban parks guys, congratulate them and keep it for their work in keeping City Park so beautiful. And one thing I want to bring up just by way of a little bit of data as it pertains to the ongoing debris cleanup in and around the city. As you know, we are partnered with the South Carolina Department of Transportation. My partner is probably not the right word. South Carolina Department of Transportation is providing the contract management for the cleanups post Hurricane Helene. But we did get this information from the contracted debris manager. To date, they have collected 4,800 yards of vegetative material from the city limits of Greer. They are running 4 self-loader trucks within the city each day and hauling materials to the site on South Buncombe that is going to be the chipping operation for the next 90 days. They will continue to run with 4 trucks for the foreseeable future. At current volumes, they estimate approximately 4 to 5 weeks to have it all cleaned up within the city limits at current volume. So good to know. Just a little bit of information for you. Mayor Danner, Council, that concludes my report, and I stand ready to answer any questions.
Mr. Merriman, have they given any feedback to items that they're not going to pick up curbside as far as the brush is concerned? I know some of the trees are rather large, and I've seen some stumps that have been hauled out to the road and different things.
They have not directly provided us any information that there is anything that they are not going to pick up. And so as far as I know, I'm unaware of anything that would preclude their picking it up at this time. But yes, there are some sizable things that have managed to find their way to the roadside. But no, sir, I don't know of anything.
This is a one-and-done deal, so they're not going to come back, right?
Yeah, they're going to get everything that's out there. So if you don't have storm debris out there yet and it's still there, get it out.
And also, if it's not close enough to the curb, I think we had that issue before.
We did. We don't want to pick it up. They don't want to pick it up out of people's yards, and we'll try and be in the right of way as much as possible. But if you go to the city's website, there is some information available as to where on the curb it needs to be, or as close to the roadside as possible.
Will they be picking up on the county roads too, or is that a different?
So the county is picking up county roads. SCDOT is picking up state and city roads.
Related to the storm, last meeting I had asked that, communications, we were talking about communications, and I had asked about the status of our city television channel on Charter. And I haven't gotten an update on that.
Yeah, so by way of update, our IT team has worked with, is working with the PEG channel for Charter. As a matter of fact, I think the last communication we've had was end of September, 1st of October, where we have reached out to the government group with Charter to inquire as to why this service has not been restored. We are going to continue to update council until we get some sort of resolution from them involving not only their legal group, but ours. So our IT team is working diligently to find resolution to that issue. But the last conversation we had was on or around the last week of September. Thank you.
Mr. Merriman, going back to the debris cleanup, last I heard and understood, there's no real way for us to be able to know where the trucks are going to be on a given day, or routes, et cetera, et cetera. Is that still the case?
That is, I think they have got a zone type approach to things, but it's almost like when you call the cable company and they say, we'll be there between 12 and 5 or 8 and noon, depending on the size of the debris pile, anything else that pop up. They're not committing to a particular schedule. It's they're working on the larger state roads and working their way in on the more heavily traversed roads, and unfortunately, most neighborhood roads are going to be the last ones picked up.
Others? As always, Mr. Merriman will be glad to provide you additional information as needed. Council, let's move to items of old business. This is the second and final reading of ordinance number 42-2024. This is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of a certain property owned by Frank W. and Tammy Merritt located at 1035 Abner Creek Road by 100% petition. Ms. Cotty, join us for that discussion. Any new information or updates council needs to be aware of?
Yes, Planning Commission held a public hearing on October 21st, and they recommended approval.
Council, for the purpose of discussion, this comes to us from the Planning Commission with a recommendation for approval. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So move.
And a second.
Second.
Floor is open for discussion.
Ms. Scotty, can you refresh us, what are the intentions for the usage for the number of units on the property?
Sure. So the acreage overall is a little under 25 acres. So technically with the zoning, that could be up to 247 units. As I mentioned in the last meeting, that would be next to impossible without going vertical in a multifamily type setting. They are currently proposing between 140 to 180 townhomes. So again, single family attached, and that is approximately 6 to 7 units per acre.
Can you refresh us on where we are from a traffic
Sure.
et cetera?
Yeah, they performed a traffic impact analysis, and because this is a residential annexation, They did have a recommendation, a recommended mitigation of a southbound right turn lane from Brockman-McClyman Road onto Abner Creek. Because that is a four-way stop intersection, SCDOT is not supportive of that mitigation at this time. They have requested instead that they pay, that they do a payment in lieu for the amount of that improvement. So at the time of SDP, we would ask for an engineer's estimate, and we would submit that to DOT to review to make sure it seems like a reasonable amount for that improvement. And we would collect that, and then if and when the next development were to trigger the full improvement, I think at that intersection, they're looking at either signalized or a roundabout, then we would use that money to offset the next or whichever developer triggered that actual improvement. So they did not trigger a signal. They did not have enough of an impact and decrease in level of service to require a signal or roundabout.
So to be very clear, as of right now, with this request, we still don't have an idea of what and when road and/or intersection improvements would be made in connection to this project or a potential project across the street on the other corner that was just rezoned.
That is correct. The project across the street that was recently rezoned in the last council meeting to traditional neighborhood, they are planning a mixed product. They are currently working on their traffic impact analysis. I just spoke to their traffic engineer last week. He had requested the former charter school that had looked at that site, and they had done a study. They requested a copy of it, and so I forwarded that and got them in contact with DOT. So it does seem like they're making progress and active, but we don't have the results of that study yet.
Ms. Cotty, I serve on the GPATS committee, which considers road improvements within the Greenville-Pickens area. I know our list of projects now exceeds probably at this point 25 years. One of the things I have come to learn and understand is that when they request that someone make a financial contribution to a situation that is generally a way for them to help leverage improvements in that intersection. Is that your understanding as well, too?
That is my understanding.
Okay, thank you. Others?
One more reminder on the history of this. Where were they before, and why did we deny it on the front end? I think it was just going to be, the density was going to be too great, and what was the original ask?
Yes, so back in August, this same parcel requested annexation with medium density zoning instead of traditional neighborhood. That allows for a density up to 17.5 units per acre. And it also allows a few more uses. Again, their plan hasn't changed. They were always kind of this range of townhomes and this density. But what it could be, or, if this project were to fall through, council and planning commission had some concerns with that density. So this zoning district is up to 10 units per acre, so it's significantly less.
Questions?
In regards to the monetary value that the developer potentially has to put up, do we have any set processes currently of how that would facilitate?
We don't. We typically consult with DOT and/or our on-call traffic engineers.
Do you foresee this being something more often happening?
I do.
My biggest concern is we're asking the developer to have their engineer put together an estimate on their behalf. It may be leaning towards maybe potentially a lighter side of what the cost could be. So if there's a way we can facilitate that transaction and get it before, I don't know if it's a staff level approval or administrator or council level approval, before we accept those funds, and ensure some type of timeline that these funds would be implemented, that would give some safeguards to the community for sure, that we're doing our due diligence and that we're just not accepting whatever they put out there.
Okay.
Council, I'll just share, and I've said it with a number of different requests that have come before us in that area. I don't have to tell you, and I certainly don't have to tell many of my friends in the crowd, that there's a lot going on south of 85. There's a lot going on in this particular area. And this particular intersection is, I would call, the epicenter of the district that I serve, of District 3. And so these two corners, both this corner that's under consideration, the corner that we just rezoned, for about 2.5 years now, I've made very clear, the conversations that I've had with my neighbors that I serve over and over and over is 99% of those conversations, we know those corners are going to develop. It needs to be the right thing at the right time. And a big piece of that is what's done to mitigate that intersection, to make it as safe as possible and to get traffic moving. It needs attention now, let alone, Ms. McLaughlin highlighted all the current projects that are going there. We know that's not going to stop, but that is needed yesterday, let alone, with what's potentially being requested now. And so, whereas I'm happy that we had the conversation about the zoning and the density and change to now, and I was cautiously optimistic even with the, current requested zoning based on what I perceive to be a willingness, and a likelihood of simultaneously getting something done in that intersection. Unfortunately, even now, just with everything going on in the area, I still have a lot of hesitation about supporting a project here without knowing that we're going to be able to get that intersection addressed in a satisfactory manner. And so unfortunately, I can't support the project at this time. Most of the folks I'm talking to understand, even if we don't like the density, if maybe 6 to 7, maybe even understand the closer we get back to the interstate, that's more and more likely. But again, it's not a matter of not wanting anything on those sites, but that intersection is already pretty treacherous and an issue. And so without being able to know that we're going to address that simultaneously, unfortunately, that's where my heartburn remains.
In that vein, Mr. Hopper, and I appreciate your explanation, and I know our citizens do as well, too. One of the things that I need to remind council about, and we have at least one or two councilmen that remind us often of this, is our role in making these decisions. And this is a zoning decision. We need to be careful as we make these decisions that we don't stray too far from our instructions in regards to the legal issues that lie before us when we begin to make decisions outside of the bounds of the planning process that is delineated by the state to us. And so one of the things that we need to be mindful about is our role in making these decisions. And certainly we want to be mindful of the surrounding issues, but we need to be careful that our issue does not become singular. Others? Questions? Discussion? Comments? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
No.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Miss Albert,
No.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, let's move to new business. The first of which, Council, we'll take a pause as I know folks may have other things to attend to tonight, and we'll give them time to leave. Council has moved items of new business, the first of which is before us this evening is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of a certain property owned by Keystone Construction Incorporated located at 2065 Country Club Road from suburban neighborhood to traditional neighborhood. Ms. Cotty, would you give us information in regards to ordinance number 43-2024, please?
Yes, thank you. This is a rezoning request for one parcel. It's a little over 12 acres, located just north of the Highway 14 and Country Club Road intersection. This is the zoning map. The blue is manufacturing and logistics. That's a CPW owned site. And then the red that you see is general commercial. And then the townhome community to the south of Highway 14 is the new Clarebrook subdivision that's currently under construction. All peach is suburban neighborhood, and then the other areas are unincorporated county. The future land use map does call for traditional neighborhood. This is a current view of the site. And then just as a summary, to the north, there's suburban neighborhood land and it's vacant. East is that Greer CPW manufacturing and logistics zoned site. And then south is Greenville County residential, and west is general commercial, also vacant. Our comprehensive plan does call for traditional neighborhood. Staff did recommend approval. Planning Commission held a public hearing back in August of 2024, and they recommended denial. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council, let's be clear as we move forward. In this regard, this comes with a recommendation from staff, but a denial from the Planning Commission. For the purpose of our discussion, I'll entertain a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. The floor is open for discussion.
This is the site, there was I think it was Country Club Trailer Park there one time, right?
Yes.
What was the discussion? I didn't read the minutes.
Sure.
What was the discussion from the Planning Commission that they voted to deny?
So there were a few speakers at the public hearing, most of which were along the right avenue, where you see the kind of little
Right.
piece that would come off. And they were concerned about kind of the rural character of that next to that density. And then there were a few that were concerned about traffic as well. Planning Commission's almost entire discussion revolved around concerns of the Highway 14 and Country Club Road intersection, and that it couldn't handle that much density.
And that's a discussion about traffic.
Yes, sir.
Was there any discussion surrounding the CPW site? Is that like a electric station, substation?
It is.
Were there any concerns about future expansion and close proximity to?
None that was discussed during Planning Commission. And that was part of planning staff's recommendation. You know, it's sandwiched between two very intensely zoned properties. So we felt like traditional neighborhood might make more sense than suburban. And given its proximity to Highway 14, a major corridor that's also considered a transitional corridor in our comp plan. So we gave it consideration, but it did not come up during the discussion.
So currently, I guess after the UDO process, we designated as suburban, and now they're looking to it's currently traditional.
Sorry, it's very
confusing.
confusing because
Yeah.
the nomenclature is very similar between the future land use and the zoning districts. So our future land use map designates the area as traditional neighborhood.
Which is the
But
lower,
it's higher density,
okay.
higher intensity. And then the current zoning is suburban neighborhood, which is a max of 4 units per acre.
okay.
So they did take a pause, as you can tell, it went to planning commission in August. They decided before coming to council that they would show some site layouts if desired, to kind of show that this property has topography challenges and there's a creek running down the middle, and that it is very unlikely to get anywhere near the maximum density that it could be, which is 120. They are currently proposing 49 townhomes on the right side of the creek, and then just 4 single-family estate lots that attach to Wright Avenue. And I do have that if you guys would like to see it, or you can ask questions of the applicant if you have more questions about their design and density.
Let me ask, please clarify for council about the planning commission's role about making decisions on traffic. How the South Carolina law.
Planning commission's role is to determine whether the zoning that is proposed is appropriate. And the key tool that they would use to make that would be the future land use map, and then existing zoning and kind of what's on the ground conditions. But traffic and transportation is not necessarily one of the factors that should go into their consideration.
And, you know, we just had this discussion about the last issue. I know it's all, the decisions are made with good intent, but I believe that decision that they made is wrong based on their directive, or based on what the rules say from our state. And we definitely don't want any challenges to zoning where we have affirmed the planning commission when we know that they have made a decision that's not appropriate.
By show of, for our information, by show of hand, is the owner of the property or representative of the owner of the property with us this evening? Are you available for questions? Thank you. Others?
I'm trying to put myself in the seat of the planning commission looking at this property. And so currently the density they're allowed is what?
4 units per acre.
Which would be how many total units potentially?
So that would be 48.
And so the new density they're proposing is what?
It would be up to 10 units per acre, which would allow a maximum of 121 units.
So they're proposing potentially, they could go up to 120, but they provided a site sketch that only showed 49.
49 townhomes and then 4 estate lots that are
So at the
separate.
current zoning, they could get 45, something like that.
48. It's
40.
very close.
I'm just trying to understand. I guess this must be a gnarly site then, if they can't get.
Sir, would you come to the podium, please, and if you would, introduce yourself and give us your name and connection to this project, please, sir.
Yes, my name is Zedekiah Heidenberg. I represent the owner of the site, with Site Design, Inc., located at 1074 Asheville Highway, Spartanburg. We did prepare a site plan if you want us to present that at this time, or it's up to you.
Is it available?
It is on the
Okay.
desktop.
Oh, it's on the
If you can help me. Oh, no, it's one of the ones I sent you.
Oh,
So it
is
should
it?
be there, yeah. It's one of the PDFs.
PDFs. Okay.
So I sent. Yeah.
Okay. That's okay.
So this is the kind of current proposed site plan for kind of best-case scenario, just given the layout of the site, the topography, the buffers, the easement on the Duke easement on the site, floodplains located on the site, site distance requirements from the DOT. We're looking at about 53, lots, which is 49 duplexes and 4 single-family lots. The reason, like you had mentioned, it's so close to suburban neighborhood that we could stay within suburban neighborhood just about and just lose a few lots. The reason to go this approach is because of the potential new, future UDO wording for the traditional neighborhood, which would allow for a better footprint for the buildings. Basically, it comes down to the minimum lot constraints under the suburban neighborhood would basically restrict the lot size or the pad size a little bit, so that you would be forced to have basically a smaller unit. So the main intent is to provide a bigger building for the residents.
So the only lots that would actually connect to the street beside the property is just the 4 estate lots, is that correct? And that's one way in, one way out. And then the only other ingress egress would be off of Country Club Road, and that serves the townhomes, is that correct?
Correct, yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, crossing the stream to even think about connecting to Wright Drive would require a very costly stream crossing, so.
Okay.
And the only way for them to get from these driveways into this road is the back end on the Country Club Road? Is that the way this is designed?
That is the only access point, yeah. The only feasible access point.
And also so this is Country Club Road that bisects both of the properties, correct? Because you're building on the left side and the right side of the.
Oh, no. No, the Country Club Road does bisect the property, but it's only a small sliver on the plan, on the south side of Country Club Road, the planned west side, which is just the.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought this was,
Sorry, it's
I was going to say,
No, the
I don't
green-
see how that's possible.
The green is open space. It'd
Gotcha.
just be, combination of
That creek comes down.
undisturbed area, stream buffers, and property buffers and such.
So they're actually kind of using, or the way you've designed it, it's kind of using the old road that they used to have access to, the trailer park, and coming on the lower end of the property. And then like you're saying in pink, the upper side is just going to access right, which is those lots are a lot more consistent with what's on the top side.
That's right.
But they're still going to have a lot of grading challenges. Just this is a really wonky.
Yeah, it's got an average of 12% slope from property line to the creek, so it's going to be fun.
What are the stormwater requirements in situations like this where you have the 4 units and you have that creek that's kind of in the middle? I mean, where is the water going to move?
We won't be doing any filling in the actual floodplain. We'll hold off, 10 minimum buffering requirements off of the creek. As far as like the detention requirements, that's something we'll, review more with the engineering department, but I do know that just because I have to look at the, Country Club roads are primary routes, so DOT will require a minimum of 50-year storm detention, DOT would. Couldn't remember if it was secondary or not, but yeah, primary route will require 50-year storm detention. And then, obviously for 100-year storm, we would have to analyze and review downstream impacts.
The only thing I'd be concerned about is that the water, yeah, all the water coming off of this site goes back across that road. You know, is there any way to?
Oh, no, it'll be collected in a detention pond on site, and then released into the creek that has an existing pipe that goes underneath Country Club
So it
Road.
will go underneath the
Yeah,
road?
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
So after looking at the site plan, what's the benefit, I done got lost, what's the benefit of changing to the more dense zoning if you're only getting 4 lots, and you may lose a few?
Bigger
on the
units.
Bigger units, okay. And now if this doesn't go through, what does this look like on their end? I mean, like, if they kept it the same zoning, what does it look like? Is it just smaller building sizes?
I think that would be up to them whether or not they could
But they could still do
financially
townhomes.
make it work. For suburban neighborhood to do townhomes, they would need a special exception, so that would go to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Oh, okay. So this zoning is townhomes by right. The one is currently is a special exception.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Others?
How many homes I kept hearing 45 and then 120. So is it 45 homes and 120 townhomes, or?
It's
what?
proposed 49 townhomes and 4 single-family residential.
Okay, 49 townhomes, and what was the other?
4 half-acre lots.
4 lots.
Okay, in the cul-de-sac looking part, okay.
Others? Thank you, sir.
Just one more
Oh, excuse
question.
me.
You said there's a size difference between the two. What is the difference? Do you know?
The lot size?
Well, the
lot
pad
size or the size of the unit
The
itself?
pad size would be, I don't have this dimension. I want to say it's 5-foot depth, but it might be 10-foot depth. It's 5 or 10 foot that we would lose on the depth of the actual townhome
If you go with suburban?
if we went with suburban.
Gotcha.
It's just the creek is a huge constraint for the size, obviously.
So,
Thank you, sir.
one of the things you'll hear later tonight during the UDO amendments, which I've brought up several times, is that we are proposing to amend the minimum lot size for townhomes. Currently, they're 3,500, which is larger than any townhome lot that we have in the city, and apologies for that getting through, but it did, and we're working to fix it. So we are proposing for suburban neighborhood to have a minimum lot size of 2,000 square feet, and then for traditional neighborhood and medium density to not have a minimum lot size and to let the density and the other setbacks and constraints be kind of the control. So the suburban neighborhood does require bigger lots, and so they'd have a tough time getting the depth they would need to meet the minimum lot size without getting into that creek. So I'm not certain what they would do if it weren't to pass. I'm not sure that they could make it work, but that would be kind of up to them and their engineer to see if they could reconfigure.
Now, the homes in the back, where is their exit? I see that looks like a cul-de-sac. Is that a road going out?
So right now, there's nothing. Right now, it's forested and it's land. So they would create a new private drive with a cul-de-sac.
That's a street.
Entrance, exit, right? Entrance, exit up there?
Yes, ma'am.
It's a street back there. It's a
Yeah.
2-lane road.
Yeah, so Right Drive is a street, but right now, this area does not have pavement. It's forested like the rest of the site.
So can we go back to the slide that showed Highway 14, I guess your original slide
Sure.
there, if
Sorry.
we can engage.
I'd help if I clicked the right thing.
Okay. Is this the one, or did you?
Yeah, well, that one,
Okay.
that one serves the purpose because the existing
That's not the right one.
I'm sorry, that's not the right. Here it is.
There we go.
Sorry.
Okay, so Brooklet Trail is apparently the only ingress and egress out of that subdivision, is that correct?
Clare Brook, that is correct. They developed again before the UDO. Now we require secondary emergency access for anything over 30 units unless there's a waiver by the fire marshal. And sometimes they do allow that if they're willing to do more of a boulevard-style entrance with a wider drive or other mitigations. But yes, that is correct. Clare Brook only has one ingress egress.
So there appears to me, just by a quick count, to be quite a number more than 49 or 44 in that area out there. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes, I
Okay.
actually can tell you how many. Clare Brook, there are 113 townhomes.
Okay, thank you. That's what I needed to know. Others?
I'd like to say again that, and I'm not a legal expert, but if we affirm what the Planning Commission has done by their voting to recommend a denial, I think that's wrong as far as state statute is concerned.
If not wrong, problematic.
It could be very problematic.
Yeah, I say that with all honesty,
I would
yes.
think council has some leeway in that though, and some subjectivity, whether you think it's a good fit or not. But I know what you're saying. If it's specific to,
I got it, but what we're doing is we're taking their recommendation and we're saying, yeah, we agree with them, and based on what they have done, they made their decision based on traffic. And
Traffic is kind of important.
no, they can't do that.
Yeah.
They
well,
can't do that by
for
state law.
safety, For safety.
By state law, they can't do that. So,
Well, I think that is relatively close to 14, where 14 Country Club turns off. There's not that far
nobody
distance, is there?
denies the location
Yeah,
or anything like that. It's just the way the decision was made.
I do think that, especially, the people that were frustrated with the Brockman, McClyman, and Abner Creek intersection tonight's a good example in this one as well. I think other states have different annexation policies to where they intentionally develop certain areas and get roadways prepared and infrastructure ready for these larger developments, and we have a reactive process in this state, which is very frustrating for county and municipalities. And so I would encourage folks, if you're listening to this tonight and you heard some of the comments, and you can see, if you listen to these meetings with consistency and you're consistently frustrated with this, ask your state representatives to adjust our annexation laws in the state to remedy this problem, because we're working with the laws that they pass down to us, and they're antiquated and they need to be adjusted.
Because so many of our roads in all the areas, from out that 14 to out 101, Abner Creek, DeYoung, some of them are almost impossible for two cars to go by.
I'm not going to lay it out. I'm not.
The county answered that question at the
I
polls.
know we don't have any
Yeah, I
control
mean,
over the roads.
that's exactly
but we
right.
do.
I don't want to lay it all at the feet of our state leaders, because if you look what happened in the Greenville County, voted down the ability to fund additional road improvements through a 1% sales tax, whether you agree or not, it got voted down. So anyway.
Well, Spartanburg approved this, something that was very similar, but I think they had a much better public relations campaign, and they connected it with the chamber and they filtered it properly. And I think they were very specific and targeted for the projects and the things that they wanted to do. And I'm not sure that Greenville County accomplished that in their program. And so I hope that they will consider revisiting it, but being very specific about the improvements and where the dollars are going to go. I'm not sure if they got the message out this time.
All right, let's revisit first reading of ordinance number 43-2024. Further comments?
Ms. Connie, in theory, are you saying that what we're going to hear and consider as far as the updates UDO-wise, that would address the whole reason why they're requesting the rezoning, if it was approved?
No, it will still be that regardless.
Gotcha.
Yep.
The only other question that I've got is, from a development standpoint, once they get the townhomes plan submitted, what type of, do we control what the materials are? What exactly is going to be incorporated? I know there's open space requirements, and kind of talk through that a
We
little bit.
do have open space requirements for single-family residential, unless applicants are using the cluster development option. We do not have standards for materials.
But it will
So
be
no.
like sidewalks.
Oh, absolutely.
just-
Yes, all of our UDO requirements would still apply. They would have to have exterior sidewalks, interior sidewalks on at least one side, a percentage of open space. Depending on their acreage, they have to have certain types of open space. They are required certain buffers on the perimeter, street trees along the frontage, tree save areas.
Now,
kind of you.
we do have regulations as far as the material, the exterior materials, correct? Because we changed that back when you had to do the plan development with townhomes. We said, here's your list, and it excluded vinyl siding.
For DRD or plan
So
development.
that's not,
in the UDO.
why not?
Typically, regulating materials for single-family residential is excluded. So we use those options for DRD or PD or cluster. We ask for those types of elevated materials in exchange for something else, like additional open space.
At hand is the first reading of ordinance over 43-2024. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of a certain oops, I'm on the wrong one there. No, that's right. Property owned by Keystone Construction located at 2065 Country Club Road from suburban neighborhood to traditional neighborhood. Final thoughts? Questions?
On the little piece across the street, is there, I guess that's part of the property? Is there
It-
plans
it-
for that, or what is that?
It technically is, but there's no usable space there.
It's not usable, is it? But part of the property? I know, I saw that narrow, and I don't know how they can get anything in that.
Can situations like that, can that count towards their open space?
Well, they've got.
I'm not sure we've ever had that, but they have more than enough open
just
space
curious.
with the creek and the wetlands.
They may need it after putting sidewalks in and everything else. They may not get the bigger pads in there.
I'm not certain. That's a good question. Don't think we've ever had that. Typically, when they submit the site plan, it is usually just the big piece that they include the acreage for, but we'd have to take a look at that and what the survey of that acreage is.
Council, final call. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
No.
Mr. Booker,
We may need to back up, because, I'm sorry, if I vote,
The ordinance specifically assumes approval. So a vote of yes is a vote in favor of the ordinance.
to affirm what planning
You're
commission,
not affirming what the planning commission did, no.
To rezone.
to rezone,
Voting to rezone, regardless of planning commissions, you just need a supermajority,
okay.
yes.
Oh.
So if you're in favor of the project, vote in the affirmative.
No.
Mr. Hopper,
No.
Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
No.
Miss Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. It fails even on a regular majority.
Weird. One thing, Mr. Mayor, please help the planning commission understand.
Item number 2, first reading of ordinance number 44-2024. This is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of a portion of a certain property and a certain property owned by Brian and Miranda Williams located at 1385 and 1415 Kist Road by 100% petition and to establish a zoning classification of suburban neighborhoods for said property. Ms. Cotty.
Sure, thank you. This is an annexation request for one full property and one portion of a property. Total is just under 20 acres. So again, this is the portion of this parcel. They are excluding an existing house and cutting out a lot for that owner. And so it would be this piece, and then this is the full parcel next to it, again, for a total of about 20 acres. So this owner is also the owner of this property south of Kist Road and this property as well adjacent to Chestnut Grove. You guys saw an annexation request last year. That came in as a potential charter school. Once that project died, the developers requested suburban neighborhood rezoning for that because it was rural residential for the school. So that site development plan for this neighborhood is currently under review. And again, it's suburban neighborhood. And so they are planning to extend the neighborhood that they're already under review into this area. And so they're proposing an additional 51 units to what they're already planning, and overall that is about 2.5 units per acre. So again, this is the current zoning map. It is adjacent to suburban neighborhood. And then future land use, again, adjacent to suburban neighborhood. This is a current street view of the property. And just an overview of the request. Again, it is a request to annex and zone to suburban neighborhood. They are surrounded by an existing neighborhood, Chestnut Grove, unzoned Spartanburg County, which is both vacant and residential. And then to the west is the Hickory Ridge neighborhood that they are planning to expand and currently under review. The comprehensive plan is suburban neighborhood. Staff does feel that this request is compatible with the future land use map, so we do recommend approval. Planning Commission will hold a public hearing for this next week on the 18th.
By show of hands, is the owner of the property or representative of the owner of the property with us this evening? You available for questions? Yes, sir. Thank you. With that, then, I'll entertain a motion to receive for the purpose of discussion.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Floor is open for discussion.
Ms. Cotty, how would this impact any traffic impact that's been done?
Sure. So they initially did a traffic impact analysis for the portion that's under review. They did not trigger any specific mitigation, but they were going to be contributing towards a larger intersection improvement to the south, just for a portion of their impact. So they did perform an updated study, and it is recommending an eastbound right turn lane from Kist Road onto 296. So they would have to do that during phase 2 of the development. So typically a lot of these plats, they separate into phases. So if they did it all at once, they'd have to have that improvement in before we would sign the final plat. But if they do phase it, it would most likely fall before phase 2.
We said about 2.5 units per acre is what's planned for
Yes,
this
sir.
addition. Council, I'll just say, the first request that came up, Chestnut Grove is right there. folks welcome the single-family detached use in that area, and it does seem, in my mind, it's very appropriate, you know, as that area does develop, very appropriate for that specific area. So cautiously supportive as well at this stage for this addition.
Others?
So you're saying the current subdivision does have improvements that they do, or is it?
No, they did not. So with the addition, they'll trigger the eastbound right turn lane.
Okay, but it'll be phased in at the time of the phase 2, basically, something to
Yes,
that
if
effect.
if they choose to phase the plating.
Okay. Now, I guess from a administrative standpoint, is there, I guess we issue some type of letter saying that once you reach 200 or whatever the number is, these improvements will be implemented?
Yes, so we would require it to be in place before we'd sign the final plat. For whichever, if they were platting the entire subdivision, it would have to be before that. If they were gonna phase it, it would most likely be before that second phase.
So when do they actually have to have the improvements done?
Before we sign the final plat,
Sign the
which
final
is
plat.
before they issue building permits.
So they can start construction on the next phase, but they can start the
Yes.
infrastructure, but they can't start pulling building permits?
Correct.
Okay.
Gentlemen, anything you would like to add to this discussion? The floor is yours if you'd like.
I think Ashley did a good job, but if you guys have specific questions.
Thank you, sir. First reading of ordinance number 44-2024. Others? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan.
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert. Yes. Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, let's move to the first reading of ordinance number 45-2024. This is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of a certain property owned by Mayfield Road Subdivision LLC, located on Mayfield Road by 100% petition and to establish a zoning classification of suburban neighborhood for said property. Ms. Cotty.
Thank you. So this request will be two different ordinances just due to different ownership of the two parcels, so you'll have to vote on them individually. We did prepare the presentation kind of combined. So you can see in this that the first parcel is ordinance 45, and then this is ordinance 46. They are requesting suburban neighborhood zoning with their annexation. It is slightly over 75 acres. Again, this is located on Mayfield Road. They also did a traffic study and did not have any required improvements. This is the current zoning map. It is adjacent to several existing neighborhoods in the city, which are all zoned suburban neighborhood. The future land use map calls for suburban neighborhood in this area. These are street views of the southern parcel and the northern parcel. And again, it is surrounded by residential, suburban neighborhood. One of those neighborhoods is the manor at Abner Creek. Staff does recommend approval. We feel like it's compatible with the future land use map and conditions on the ground. It will go before a public hearing with the Planning Commission next Monday evening.
By show of hand, is the owner of the property or representative of the owner of the property with us this evening? Thank you. Are you available to answer questions if necessary? Thank you.
So this project, a lot of our projects have not gone to Planning Advisory Committee. All of the preliminary plans that you've seen or talked about earlier tonight have not. This project did go through Planning Advisory in February. They are proposing 150 single-family detached lots. They are divided by the creek and wetlands, kind of where you see the existing, oh, no you don't, because it's not there. Where you see the strips is where it's kind of divided, so they'll have housing on this side and then housing on this side. Again, with the zoning, they could have up to 300 units just with the zoning, but based on topography and different challenges with the site, their current configuration that they have submitted is 150.
There's a creek, is there a creek running through there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. I thought it was. I
think
rode
there
down
is.
that
It's-
way
I think there's
across the
wetlands.
bridge and wasn't sure where the signs were, yeah.
Yeah.
Ordinance number 45-2024. Floor is open for discussion.
Did you say a traffic study was done on this one?
Yes, and they did not have any recommended improvements.
I'm just curious, and this is just a question. We've had traffic studies, like the third or fourth traffic study. Some of the sites were smaller. This is 40-something acres, 300 homes, still no improvements being designated. Who checks the traffic studies? I'm just curious.
90% of the time, DOT reviews them. If it is not impacting or ingress egress onto state roads, then we have 3 on-call traffic engineers. In this case, it was SCDOT. And that traffic study was based on the 150 single-family detached, not the maximum allowable. So again, if they were to not go forward with their site and they were to propose something with more than that, if it's more than 10% difference, they would have to do an updated study.
Okay, but they are including the surrounding subdivisions, some of the other traffic interferences that you can have. It's just, I figured there'd been something somewhere. So that's my only rub right now.
That's a good question, because, once these places get developed and it starts to kind of push that traffic more to that intersection that we talked about earlier, it's, yes, this impacts that intersection, but it's not taken into account. And so it's almost unfair to the people on that corner that are doing those developments to bear the burden of what happens to that intersection, even though you know that a lot of the traffic's coming from these developments that are downstream.
I don't disagree. We've had this conversation with DOT many, many times. If there is a known ultimate improvement at an intersection, we occasionally ask for payment in lieu towards a portion of it. In this case, there wasn't imminent improvements.
Mayfield's another narrow road, yeah.
Yes, and they would be required to widen on their side of the road to our
Will be
to our
widened?
standards. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
That's good. Yeah, because it's not a very populated road. It's not very populated where you turn off at Abner Creek. There's a farm there, so it's vacant there for a little bit.
So, yeah, regardless of what the TIA traffic impact analysis says for improvements, like intersection or turn lanes, all developments are subject to potential widening and/or right-of-way dedication. So all of the frontage that they are adjacent to, they will have to widen their side of the road up to kind of the half of the cross-section that's required. So sometimes that's 2 feet, sometimes it's 6 feet. It just depends on the current condition of the roadway.
Because I think it's the elementary school. It's not very far from there. Yeah.
First reading of ordinance number 45-2024. Others? Questions? Comments? Discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan.
We don't have a motion, Mayor.
You need
So
to back up
moved.
then. For the purpose of a vote, then, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
We will now proceed. Last call. Any further comments in regards to ordinance number 45-2024? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Airwood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Ms. Albert. Yes. Mayor Danner.
Yes. Let's proceed to the first reading of ordinance number 46-2024. This is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of a certain property owned by Mayfield North QOZB LLC located on Mayfield Road by 100% petition and to establish a zoning classification of suburban neighborhood for said property. Ms. Cotty, information in this regard.
Yes, so this is the second parcel that's part of the same request. It is this one to the north. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have.
Thank you, ma'am. This comes with the staff recommendation at this point?
Yes, staff does recommend approval.
Okay, with that, then I'll entertain a motion to receive ordinance number 46-2024.
So moved.
Second.
Floor is open for discussion. Are the owners of the property or representative of the owners of the property with us this evening? So noted. You're available for questions? Thank you, sir. With that, the floor is open for discussion.
Okay, this is basically including all the conversation we just had about the number of homes and all.
Yes, ma'am. The total is still 150. It just encompasses both parcels.
Okay. 150 on total? or
Total.
150, okay.
Total, yes, ma'am.
Total, okay.
2 per acre on the combined request.
Yes. Had to do some math.
And if the density increases by 10%, it triggers a new traffic study?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
Sorry, not the density per se, but if it were to change the
of
peak
units.
hour trips by 10%, they would need to, or the trips by 10%. That's not always a one-for-one.
Okay, I mean, how do they factor that? How do they figure that?
So we use the Institute of Transportation Engineers manual. It's called the ITE. It's a very large green book with land use codes for just about any and every use you could imagine. And they assign a multiplier for each use. And so we use that tool to help us figure out how many trips that a certain development is going to generate. And so if they change their plans and that trip generation changes more than 10%, we would require a new study. Or if they change product, we would likely require a new study regardless.
Others?
Just got one thing, and this is for you, Andy. And our staff, they do a great job at everything, but we may be at a point where we need to look at a traffic engineer on staff. Because my concern now is we need someone that's non-biased that can act on behalf of the city, because potentially the third-party folks we're putting out, they're probably doing the same studies for developers. We definitely need an unbiased person on staff that can look at these things and act on behalf of the city to make sure that we're getting what we need to get. That's just my only comment.
Yes, sir.
Others? Ordinance number 46-2024. Final comments? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Earwood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Ms. Albert.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, our final item before us this evening is the first reading of ordinance number 47-2024. This is an ordinance to amend the City of Greer Unified Development Ordinance, our UDO. For the purpose of discussion, I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Before we move forward, this conversation is one that we talked about as we were going through the process of establishing the UDO. We realized that from time to time that we would be making adjustments in some regards, and tonight is the first of those. We said that nobody gets this one right completely the first time out of the gate. That doesn't mean that somebody hasn't done what they needed to do, or there may have been an oversight. It is just a matter of this being applicable in some regards, and as we move forward, This is something that we may have to do time to time to make adjustments in regards to the UDO. With that, Ms. Cotty, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And so this is a summary table of each of the amendments that are proposed. You also received a red line draft version of the UDO as one of the attachments. I do have it on the desktop. If we do need to refer to it, I'm happy to do that. As you'll see, this table and package is much smaller than the group that you saw in February. Again, as we use the document and refine it, again, hopefully this list will be smaller and smaller. And again, we anticipated bringing it quarterly, but this is the second of the year. So again, I'll just echo what the mayor said. We know we weren't going to get it exactly right the first time, but as we use it, we are proposing some adjustments to help us enforce it better and make it a little more user-friendly for developers and residents. So I was just planning to go over kind of each section, a summary of what the changes are. But again, if you have any questions about it, we can pull up the red line version and we can stop after each section. Or if you have another preference, I'm happy to do it however makes the most sense to you guys. But the first group of amendments are related to code enforcement. We did have, after using the document in the field, our code enforcement officers requested that we make a couple of additional tweaks to the language. The first is updating the fines to be consistent with other city ordinances. So it's just updating the amount to reflect the same that other ordinances reference. The second is added language restricting commercial building material storage and activity in residential zoning districts. So that is specifically food trucks or commercial vehicles that include trailers for the purpose of commercial use. So again, we talked about this last time. If you have an F-150 or an F-250 with your company's logo on the side, that is not going to be a problem. But if you're bringing large trailers, excavators, other lawn equipment, and have that construction debris kind of stacked up next to your house, that is where it starts to become problematic. So we updated that section and then also updated the definition to reflect that language. Anyone have any questions or concerns about those?
We need action on this item. Do we have a motion at this point?
Sorry.
We do?
We do,
Okay,
okay.
so we can move forward then. Yes, ma'am. That's fine. Council, comments in regards to code enforcement?
Well, I've got, and we kind of hit on the point that I'm going to try to make. I've made it clear that I thought that this UDO was just a waste of time and money because we just repackaged everything that we have. And then find out tonight that, well, we're not doing some things that we used to do that council wanted done. And now we want to do updates, but when you just look at the table of contents, I mean, the document is a 300-something page document. And I think I did the best job I could do when we first went through it, going from page 1 all the way through. I'm not prepared to vote on it at all because I understand they've done, staff has provided us with the content and just a general overview, and then you go through and you have to scroll through the entire document, and it's just, it's the items that's going to be added are in red or struck through, but there's no reasoning behind it. And so before I'm ready to vote on it, I want some sort of narrative as to why staff says we need to do this. It could be something as simple, well, we just missed it, we left it out. Or now we're talking about commercial vehicles. And Ms. Cotty just said, well, if it's a F-150 or F-250, it doesn't matter. Well, how can we do that? How can we say, based on the size of the truck, it's commercial or not? I'd like this to go back to staff, and, you know, for every section where they're making a change, there needs to be at least some sort of narrative as to why.
Would you like to make a motion that this be held over?
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion that we hold this over until staff has the ability, has had the chance to go through, and with each section or where there's going to be changes, provide a narrative to council, a written narrative.
We will need a motion then to modify the motion. Who made the
Original.
original motion?
Mr. Booker did.
So I need to modify my motion to allow us to hold this over.
Yes.
If you're agreeable.
I'll modify my motion, allow us to hold it over. Now, are you looking to do this like in a workshop type setting or
No,
just?
I mean, you know, we get our packet and we start going through it, and, you know, there's nothing there to say why. And I think that's a big miss on the whole UDO process is a lot of times when we made changes, there was no, why are we doing it? So.
That would, because I was going to kind of ask some of those questions about, you know, the updated definition of commercial vehicles. What issues have we run into, or what did we not address? Or kind of like he's saying, what is the why behind the changes? It would be great to have just a little explanation where to find it, and so just, I guess any more information on that front would be helpful. Who made the second?
Me.
Are you okay with this amendment?
I'm good.
Or withdrawing it or whatever?
So we have an amended motion to hold this over to an upcoming meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
So we'll need a motion and a second.
Got it.
We got a motion and a second in that regard.
Yeah.
All right. Any discussion in regards to holding it over?
Did you want to did you say like next meeting or in a month? I mean, or
No,
just-
when staff has,
Okay.
yeah.
Scotty, is there anything in this list that we were going to review tonight that has precedent in terms of needing immediate attention?
There are a few subdivisions that are waiting for the townhome minimum lot size amendment. I mean, I can't say whether or not 2 weeks is going to be make or break for them or not, but we do have
I would
3.
object to making it smaller.
Yes,
I would
ma'am.
object to making their lot sizes smaller.
Okay.
I mean, they don't even hardly have room enough to have a driveway now, you know, so.
Well,
A sufficient driveway, should I say.
that'll be part of the conversation that we have in that regard then.
But on that front, is that something that we need to address tonight? You know, if that's a pressing issue, like you said, is that the only one that you can think of that is?
Yes,
Is it feasible that we'll have this at the next meeting in 2 weeks?
yes.
We will look to have this at the next meeting. We'll not add that to our motion, but hopefully we'll have that for our meeting at the end of the month. We have a motion and a second to hold this matter over. Any further discussion in that regard? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Ms. Albert.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
No. Council, that was the last matter that we had before us this evening. We stand adjourned.